want to wish everybody a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Just two quick things come to me this morning, which I'll share, is that yesterday was my birthday, and our sons, we had a Zoom meeting with them. And for the first time, I think in the year, I cried. And it was because I hadn't seen them since a year ago, December. It's been 15 months. And I didn't realize the grief that I was holding. And it was really poignant for me, and I think for them. So it's just to say that, when we all come together, we really don't know what everybody is carrying around the pandemic. That, many of us have gotten our vaccines, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. And we're there individually, and then I'm thinking about how we're here to support other people. But we can't forget, where we are in this whole process. So I guess that's what comes to me this morning. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Lynn has to say about these secrets. Because I saw that when I woke up this morning and I had no idea what she's going to share.
Melinda loves things about secret. That would be a way to wake everybody up, is to talk about the best kept secrets. And actually it was a quote by a famous psychoanalyst who talked about the best kept secret of psychotherapy. And so I broadened it to helpers. And when I'm talking about helpers, what do I mean by that? Somebody asked in our millennial group what we mean by helpers. And I think Melinda and I have a sort of broad notion. It started from, because I'm a psychotherapist and a psychoanalyst, I think of being in a helping profession and being a helper. But then there are coaches, there are spiritual leaders, there are teachers, there are so many ways that people are helpers. And we want this group to include all of the ways that people are needing support in helping others. Some people are needing support in helping their families through this pandemic. There are many, many ways of being a helper. But I think of being a helper, I'm going to define it more narrowly now, as a deep intention to cultivate the healing and the growth of another person or other people. A deep intention to cultivate the growth and healing of another. So I'm a helper now. After this meeting is over, then I'll have breakfast. I won't be a helper then. I'm not in the role of a helper. A helper is a particular, I don't want to say role, because then that sounds false. It's not false. It's a particular dimension, a particular way of being. Like a parent is a particular way of being. And you may be a deeply committed parent, but you may go out on the town with your partner and you're not a parent in that moment. So a helper is a particular dimension of being, and it's something that you enter into. It isn't something that you necessarily are or are being or doing all the time. So I just want to clarify what I mean by helper here. So the best kept secret, what are they? What are these secrets? What Stephen Mitchell was talking about is that the best kept secret is that psychotherapists are in it for themselves, and that now I'm going to use the term helper rather than psychotherapist, because we're broadening it, that helpers are helped by helping. It's not some sacrifice that you make that depletes you and you're so heroic for putting yourself aside and helping other people. Sometimes when I'm in social situations, people will say to me, "Oh, you're a psychotherapist. Oh, that must be so hard. Just sitting and listening to people's problems. Oh, it must be very difficult." And I can't say it isn't difficult, especially in a plague, right? In a pandemic. That's why we have this community, because it is difficult to hold and nurture other people when there's so much stress and so much anxiety and so much strain. Of course, it's difficult, but the other side of it is that we're doing it because it's enlivening, it's growth producing. When I first thought about having this community come together, the Help for Helpers, it wasn't, oh, I'll give myself another burden and help these helpers. It was, oh, I need something here. I need the magic that helping produces. So the other side of it is that helping is a very special, incredibly, I'm going to use the word miraculous because it feels like that, miraculous kind of experience of entering into life in a very intensive way so that you're fully in the stream of life, fully awake to all the tiny movements of life that we might otherwise not even notice. I mean, when I'm not a helper, do I notice if somebody has a breath and then there's a particular word? I might notice it, but it might just go right by me. I might be just in the flow of whatever I'm doing. And that little miracle of the breath, the slight silence, and then a word or an image that comes and brings a whole new thing, that might go right by me. The first secret is that helpers are helped by helping. And then there's a second part to it, or maybe you could call it another secret. And I wonder if some of you are guessing what I'm going to say. The other secret Jean wrote about quite a bit. The other one is that therapists, psychoanalysts, counselors, spiritual leaders, helpers are not more mature, healthier, wiser than the people that they help. Do we know that secret? Sometimes we know that secret, of course, but sometimes we forget it. And we think if we're as helpers, we're supposed to be more grown up. We're supposed to be further along in the journey. We're supposed to be wiser. We're supposed to be more together. We're supposed to be healthier. I think that word is such a loaded word, that the therapist is supposed to be healthier than the client, that the helper is supposed to be healthier than the helpee. And there's that wonderful quote of Jean's where he says that that it just takes being another person that's really present. And it's, thank God, because he wouldn't be much use if you had to be wiser and healthier and more grown up. And that I'm taking great liberties with his quote, but that he is very willing for his client to see in his eyes the shaky substance that he is. But there's something tricky here about this secret. And what's tricky about it is that when I'm a helper, I'm bringing the most together, wise, centered part of myself to the party, to the interaction. And the kind of interaction, a helping interaction, brings that out in me. And the client may need to feel that I'm wiser, more grown up, healthier. And maybe they know in some part of themselves that probably I'm not all the time, but still I'm bringing that part of me. The client, this is another thing that Stephen Mitchell said, that the client, your job as a helpee, your job when you're not a helper and you're being helped, is to bring the most raw, troubled, regressed child, the most difficult part of yourself, your client's client, you bring to the interaction. And I bring to my therapist those parts of me. And so there is an asymmetry in a helping relationship, just like in a parenting relationship. That you aren't necessarily wiser than your child, but in that interaction, you're bringing the mature part of yourself, and the child can be free to be any way they want to. They don't, the client can bring whatever is there for them, and mostly the client tries to find the most troubled parts to bring. Let's just stop here for a minute and just have a couple of comments about those two secrets. The secret about how the helper is helped as much as the helpee, and how the helper isn't more grown up and wiser. Were those secrets to you? No.
One of the things that struck me right now is when you spoke about how in this role or in this dimension of the helper, we are paying attention to the very small, tiny moments and interactions and happenings. And that rings so true right now. And how precious that is, how wonderful that is for being alive, right? And living and paying attention to the tiny.
Yes. Right.
That question of not being healthier or better put together than the people we're helping, it seems to me that there's a limit to how much we can fall apart though. I'm completely on board with the fact that we don't have to be smart or wise or have it all together. But there also seems to be a sort of a bottom limit. And so it's an interesting question to explore. I just want to make that comment.
Yes, I'm with you. Well, I am not saying that the helper gets to fall apart and the helper gets to rant and rave and I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the helping relationship brings out the wiser, more grown up part of the helper. And when that helper is in their own therapy, then they get to fall apart. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And if anything, it helps. Yeah, it helps us. I remember before I became a therapist, I met a couple of therapists and it seemed like such a far distant world to me. And they had a demeanor about them that I really found pleasant, about how they took on the world. And it seems even just practicing and being in that relationship to someone else brings a level of sort of presence to the world that in itself is something special. And it probably more higher functioning aspects of ourselves in a way get more practice.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that thought. That it isn't that the therapist is essentially more mature than the client or whatever. more developed, but that the practice of helping matures us and grows us and stretches us. That's another part of this secret, that as a therapist, we get to practice all of those hours, practice being present and being in relation and being helpful, whatever that is helpful in the moment. We get to practice that, and we get to be alive in that. The reason that that I thought this would be a good topic in the coming of spring here, that we've emphasized a great deal all of the burdens that we're carrying, and that's an important emphasis. But I sort of wanted to look at the other side of being a helper today, the upside of being a helper. That is encouraging to sort of remember. The benefits isn't the right word. I was trying to think of the right word. The rewards, what could be the right word for that? You may come up with the right word. What we get out of it, which is
the gift.
The gift. Oh, good. The
That
gift.
we go to that place, right? The
Right.
gift.
Yes. And I love the way you said that we get to go to that place, and we'll talk more about that, going to that place. And that's a wonderful way to say it, that what a helping relationship does is it affords us an opportunity to go to that place. And in that place, we may be wise, we may be more mature, we may be more centered, we may be more alive. And helping allows us to go to that place. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that place, the metaphors that came to me about what that place is. And then in our attunement, I'm going to ask you to center in on moments of being in that place of helping and what the gifts were for you of helping. But I want to say, just back to the secret, another reason that I'm making a big thing about it, about the mutuality of the helping relationship, is that when I was being trained and in supervision years ago, the supervisor would say, will you want to make this suggestion or offer this to your client? Who are you doing it for? Are you really doing it for the client, or are you doing it for yourself? And I'm wondering if that still happens. And there was this division that if you're doing something for yourself, then it's selfish and you're not doing it for the client. If you're doing it for the client, then it's not for you. And what I've learned over the years, and certainly the emphasis in focusing, is that we're one system, we are one interaction. And if I'm doing it for the part of myself that's attuned to the client, that will be hopefully beneficial to the client. And if it isn't, I delete it. I change course. If it's really for the benefit of the client, then it's going to be helping me too, because we're one system. There isn't a division there of it's for me or it's for you. It's for us. And it's a very particular kind of us, that it's an us that goes to that place. So let's take a breath and see if we have some metaphors for that place, the helping place. Jean says that our main job as therapists or helpers is to be the kind of interaction that will heal and grow the other. It's a way of being. We're being the interaction. We're one interaction, and we're entering that interactional space with the other. Gene would say, and I don't know if he wrote this but probably others of you remember him saying it, that he loved doing psychotherapy because it was being on vacation. For him, it was like, oh, the most relaxing vacation I can take is to be a therapist. And then I'm leaving behind all of my own struggles that are triggering me or mystifying me or troubling me, and I'm entering in to another world. I can leave my life situation and put it right next to me, not turn it away, but put it right next to me. And here I have this whole other life that I can enter as a therapist. What a wonderful vacation, he said. And so let's let number one, I'm going to give you a couple of metaphors here. The metaphor of the vacation. The second one is that this place that we go is a practice. And Ruth Rosenblum and I were going to write an article, and we never did it. Maybe we still will, on doing psychotherapy as a spiritual practice. It's a practice in the way that we go to the place where we are very much in the moment. We're very present to the micro moment of interaction. We go to the place where we are bringing our whole selves to a kind of attention, a kind of relaxed alertness. It's a practice in the sense that we pay attention to the most important aspects of the process of life. I think I've quoted the title of this sermon before, to make the most important thing be the most important. The most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. That was the title of this sermon that I heard 30 years ago or something. But that's a practice, to keep the most important thing as the most important thing. I get bollocksed up when I try to say it, but I think you get the point. And that's a practice of saying what's important here, and to put aside all the things that aren't important to this moment of growth and of healing. There are many other ways in which helping is a practice, but I'm just going to name those few. Let me see if I have in my notes. Oh, it's a practice of caring, letting yourself care. It's like when you're being a helper, you're not going to say, oh, it doesn't matter, or what does this mean to me, or I have better things to do. It's a practice of caring, and caring in the double way of caring, meaning compassion, and caring meaning giving a shit about it. We care about it. We bring ourselves to it. And it's also a practice in the sense of being open to surprise, being right on that edge where we're open to the surprise of knowing that we don't know, and that something is going to come that will be surprising. It's that edge where we know that it has to come, and that's all a practice. I'm going to give you a moment to just feel how you sense helping as a practice. I want to say also what comes to me when I pause there is that it's a practice in the sense that it's entering into a particular space, a particular dimension. It's not the way we are all the time, not what we're doing all the time. It's sacred in the sense that this is special. I'm going to listen in a way that I don't always listen. I'm going to be present in a way that I'm not always present. I'm going to be open to surprise in a way that I'm not always open. It's a time carved out for a very important, deep spiritual purpose of being together. It's a very particular way of being together. Okay, the third one is that it's a dance. Being a helper is entering into a dance. It's a dance with what is coming over the horizon line. It's a dance with the mystery that we don't know. And it's a dance with the implicit of ourselves and the other and the situation. It's a dance with the other. We're in close partnership. We're moving with the other in a kind of spontaneous, but as skilled as we can way. We're in motion. We're in a flow. We're going with something when we're helping. And it's a partnership dance. We're all now, right now, in a partnership dance where I happen to be the one speaking and you are speaking with yourselves and speaking in your own way and listening. And I'm in a way listening to what you're saying in the silence. And we're having the intention together of making this session, of making this meal together. Which leads me to the next one, which is that it's being a helper, entering the garden. And I love gardens and I love gardening. Gardening is so nurturing because you're seeing, as we mentioned before, the micro moments, the micro movements of life very close up. You're seeing each tiny bud. You're sensing when water is needed, when something needs to be moved from one side of the garden to the other. And we get to be nourished not only emotionally and aesthetically, spiritually from the garden, but we get to eat the fruits of the garden. The wisdom that comes, even the practical advice that comes, all the fruits that come from helping, we get to have it. We get to eat it ourselves. We get to be it. So the garden, we are the gardeners, but we are also the garden. And the garden is also gardening us. That's what we mean by being one interaction. And so I think all of us have experienced that the garden is gardening us. And that the garden is the client, but it's also this bigger thing that we're participating in. Another way that we could say it is that it's being a midwife and it's giving birth to new things. Wow, what can be more exciting than to have the opportunity to help give birth to new life And we get that every moment when we're in this place of helping. We get to have the deep satisfaction, the joy of seeing this new life that we have helped to create and that's being created in us as well as in the other. The next one is that we get to be the Wizard of Oz. I always love that movie where they finally find the Wizard of Oz and it's this little guy hiding behind the curtain, scared to death. But when he's the Wizard of Oz, and then he does really help. The Wizard of Oz is the frightened little guy behind the eyes that Jean talks about, the little man behind the curtain. But when we are the Wizard of Oz, we are empowered by the situation, by the client, by the process, and we get to be the wise one. It comes upon us. It comes for us. Okay, I think I'm talking too much, so I'm going to just have one more, which is that we get to go on an adventure. And I think of it as the adventure of a car trip where we have no idea where we're going. But we get in the car, the client, the other person, the group, and we are all in the car. And we get to see new ways of being, new experiential worlds, new vistas that we've never seen before. We get to try on and be surprised by ways of thinking and feeling and being in situations that we haven't been in resonance with people that we haven't been, or maybe parts of us have been. And we don't have to know where we're getting to, although the insurance companies like therapists to know and to put it all down on paper. But one of the secrets that I hope you do not tell the insurance people is that focusing oriented helpers and many, many other helpers don't know the destination. We don't know where we're going to. We know something about driving the car. Jean said that that listening is like watching the road. We know that we know when you're driving a car, you have to watch the road. We may know something about putting our foot on the brakes, or slowing things down, or putting our foot on the gas by responding to something. We know something about the process, but we don't know about the destination. And there's something very exciting about not knowing the destination and the practice of honing the skills of knowing about the car that we are together, the car that I am, the particular kind of car that I am, how to drive that car. It has little quirks. I have to learn how to navigate those little quirks of the kind of car that I am and the kind of car that the client is. And so it's an adventure. I filled you with many, many metaphors here. Maybe in this moment of taking in my metaphors, you can also go back in your mind, your feelings, to what are the gifts for you of moments when helping is really nourishing for you. Like think of a particular time, a particular instance that captures that, an image, or you may have your own name for that helping process. Okay, and when you're ready, I'm so eager to hear from you. about anything that's there for you now, including the people who might say, Lynn, you're such a Pollyanna. I mean, helping is hard and you're just talking about it like it's a piece of cake. We're open to that side too. Or the people who might be saying, I'm sick of helping others. I had to help others since I was born.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So glad to be seeing you. I usually cannot be here, and today I can. And plus,
Oh,
it's
wonderful.
a beautiful thing.
So good to see you, Anna.
So for me, the word that came, it's gathering, but gathering of, like, the French word is convoquer. I don't know if anything in English sounds like that, like being convoked, like being asked to be there from this movement of living process. So we are both kind of brought there in this context that's called specific space and time, which is called my office or Zoom session. And there is all of this decor like of payment and us sitting in a certain way. It's like a scene, or we can call it a temple, or we can call it, there is this place that both of us are kind of asked to be on this living movement. And therefore I don't feel like I'm a helper, but we are there for helping to become. So something very mutual.
Yes, yes.
My patients recently were asking me very often, how you can do this 10 hours a day? Like, aren't you tired? Aren't you? And I was actually each time really thanking them. I'm so grateful because I get to stay there for 10 hours in this way of being curious, as you said, and open and present, which is not so easy for me in 10 hours a day in an everyday life at all. So one of my patients is like, you are the most welcoming and most gentle person in the world. And I looked at her and said, you should speak to my ex-husband. I don't think he would say. She was laughing. She fell out of the chair and she was just like, okay, I get you. I said, like, you are giving me this opportunity to live this with you.
Yes, yes.
It's us who've made this space for both of us.
That's
so
right.
Movement can happen.
Yes, movement can happen. Thank you, Anna. I love that.
Thank you.
And I love that image of us going to a temple together and the mutuality of it.
I wanted to say that in my last week's group meeting, I very clearly felt that we are all on the spectrum of being Luke Skywalker at one time and Jedi the other time. And I felt I was surrounded with Jedis who were also Luke Skywalkers in their moments too. Yes, and it's a spectrum, and we all have that capability of being, taking these roles, and what we hold the other person and ourselves in that moment, we take on that part of ourselves.
Yes, yes, yes.
I feel like I can be I can be Luke Skywalker, and I can be Jedi both.
Yes, yes. You can be the holder and you can be the one that's held. And in the embrace, you're together.
Being with clients, especially when I work with children, the key word is spontaneity. It's that moment we're in, and in the moment of play, being together in that room and noticing the attention of the child, where it goes as we do the play. But the key word is spontaneity.
Spontaneity is captures a lot, doesn't it? Yeah. We get to be spontaneous when we're helpers, because that's the improvisation is the essence of helping, being there in that what comes.
I can be helpful to someone else when I am clear and quiet enough in myself to take them in, just as they are in the moment. So I need to slow down and be clear and quiet myself.
Yes.
And it's interesting how someone can help me who's much younger than me, who can be inspiring, who can give me what I need in that moment. So it isn't, whether they're younger doesn't really, matter. Somebody who can help me take the next step.
And Joe, you were going to make a
Yeah,
comment?
there were 2 points I was going to make. One was in regard to your comment about keeping the important things important.
Mhm.
I listened to a podcast yesterday with Jack Cornfield and his wife Trudy. And Trudy was talking about how she and Jack brought the drama of their relationship to one of their teachers. They were struggling and they brought their dramas to the teacher. And he just sat there laughing. And finally, when they stopped, he just looked at them and said, "Soon die." That kind of cuts through a lot of things there. So, and then secondly, the other point I'd like to make is in regard to the experience of helping, being both the receiver, but also there's an invitation to expand your own knowledge and depth of experience. You can be a Luke Skywalker, but experiencing your Skywalkerness makes you want to know more so that you can be even better at what you do.
Yes.
Being present. So there's an invitation there to grow all the time.
That's right. And the difficult parts of the process grow you. If the process is just always easy, then you might not grow as much. So it's a process that's meant to stretch you and grow you, as well as give you joy.
Last week, Helene talked about the ABC of focusing.
Yeah.
And, she talked about the acknowledgement, the being with, and then extending compassion. And instinctively, I added a D to that, which was dance with whatever comes.
Oh, I like that.
So for me, it's ABCD.
Yes. I was also thinking about what would D be, and I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, you got your answer when you said dancing. I said, that's it. Now we have an ABCD.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I like that very much. I think that's better than what I thought of, which was development. But dancing has much more of the feeling of the flow and the going with, and I like that.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for a very profound and enriching morning. And also thanks to my group. It was wonderful. I just want to share the deep feeling I had when in my breakout rooms. It was that the first time I was practiced as a therapist over 35 years ago, I was totally overwhelmed by being in a sacred room.
Yes.
So I wasn't prepared. I was just overwhelmed, and it was all quiet inside me, calm and quiet, but also speechless for a couple of minutes. And I feel that honored to be in this position. And then I'm also, with that, great to be put there. I've always struggled with to be responsible, to live up to that, to be called or selected or whatever.
Yes.
And focusing helped me tremendous to see the mutuality in the relationship. And it's not about to be responsible solemnly on a moralistic level, it's about responsiveness.
Yes.
And I've been, what do you say, more, I don't know the English word. Yeah, it learned me that I have to give what I have to give, and then I have to be honest if I'm ashamed that I couldn't give more. So it's rather an honesty journey.
Absolutely, an honesty journey. I love what you're saying about responsibility, and I love that definition of responsibility as the ability to respond. That you're pointing to, Ulla. That it's not this should kind of thing that's imposed on us. You have the responsibility, but it's this ability that the helping relationship gives us, empowers us to be able to respond.
What I'm hearing in it now is what you were talking about in the beginning, Lynn, which is that what she's modeling for us is bringing our whole humanness, right? It's like that aspect, we could call the sacred, that she felt initially and felt humbled and even silenced by. Right, and then as we mature as practitioners and we accept that we as the human vehicle of the process are limited, and hence essentially, because that's what it means to be human, and that's okay. We are enough, and we can be honest about that. Bringing our okayness about our own human enoughness is in and of itself a gift to the client, right?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for that, for the way that you put that together. Yes.
Yeah, because, oh my God, I don't know about anyone else here on this call, but for me, if I don't accept my own humanness and I feel like I have to be this ideal of the perfect person, oh my God, does that get in the way? On all kinds of levels. So
maybe we'll gather some of the quotes from Jean about that, about accepting our own humanness and being another person, which is so important. And then we don't reject the idealization that the client may have, because that's part of it. That's what we're doing. The client is seeing that in us. It doesn't mean that it's not true. It's a distortion, like they used to think in psychoanalysis that an idealization is a distortion. It's not that. I mean, we all have these large parts of ourselves, and the client needs to find that and see that, and use that, and then we can appreciate that in ourselves too, as long as we don't think that that really defines us, that's who we are as these ideal people. Right? But there are dimensions of us that touch into that.
How would you teach a client the difference between idealization and really wanting and acknowledging an expertise in a certain area? Because I think, like say, if I want to learn tennis, and in the beginning, and there's also, I don't know where I got this, there's a model that like the first piano teacher just has to be somebody who loves music and who loves the child, if somebody starts early enough. But then at a certain level, if somebody wants to go on to be a professional musician, they really need somebody who is very accomplished and not just somebody who loves them and loves music.
Right.
And so I think in therapy, there's sometimes, and that's, I think, what I got a little bit, I heard it that way from you, like it's only about accepting one's own imperfection. But I also want somebody who has a level of understanding that I don't have yet myself. And they don't have to be perfect in every area of their life. But if they're not in some way more accomplished than I am at this point, I'm not going to go there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that I hear Jean, you know, in my mind, and I'm imagining Jean saying, well, it's not that we teach our clients something, sort of like the gardener doesn't teach the plants. The gardener, maybe the plant isn't in the right place if we don't have the expertise that they need in that moment. And we each have different different gifts, different know-hows, different ways of being. And it's the life process will help the client to find the helper that that is the interaction that that client needs. You know, so if I'm going on an outward bound journey in my car, I want to know somebody who knows how to drive that particular car. I don't want somebody who hasn't driven a car before, but maybe somebody else would find it exciting to get to learn together to drive that car. We're all so individual about what we need, and the particular partnership is so individual. But life does it itself. We don't have to teach the client the difference between idealization and wisdom. Because the idealization is part of the growth process. Jean would say, oh, the client is seeing that part of me. Oh, I don't know him very well, but I like the sound of that, Jean would say. So easy with both his own limitations and with enjoying himself the idealization of, oh, wow, you got that from what I said. Wow, that's profound. Do you get the feeling I'm trying to convey, Robert? I don't know if I'm being clear enough there.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I do get that whole level of life unfolding. But I think that's not the only level. I mean, it's ultimately the only level. But then there's still, I think, some choices.
Absolutely.
Within that unfolding, right, we make.
That's right.
And I think for me, it's like what I'm getting from your answer is an invitation to be more clear about my needs. Because sometimes maybe they are embrace and belonging and acceptance, but sometimes they are also more, I think, a deeper level of understanding that I don't get to on my own.
Yeah.
Or that maybe somebody can help me to get to sooner.
Absolutely.
Than if I'm just practicing on my own.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what you're pointing to, Robert, is that it's so important for the client to be encouraged to seek the kind of understanding, skill, way of being that he or she needs, and not just to think that it's, you know, I should embrace whoever the helper is. The client needs to find the helper that fits in the dance with him or her, right? So there may be a particular kind of understanding and way of being that you would need to be helped. And certainly that was true of me. When I met Jean, I thought, oh, he has this thing that I want. I'm going to really make an effort to work with him because he has this understanding, this broader perspective, and and what we would call humility, but humility is used in a funny way by a lot of people. So I don't mean it in that way, but in the way of just being easy with what he knows and what he doesn't know, what he can understand, what he can't understand. And that was just what I needed.
The responsibility for growth really lies with the client. That's just a sort of something I want to put out as a question or a thought.
I would say it's not you and it's not the client, it's the partnership. The responsibility is in the partnership. And we want to grow the partnership. We want the partnership to be resilient and strong, and the partnership to be able to know the direction of growth. And even the direction of growth if that client shouldn't be with that helper. You know, that's up to the partnership, and it grows. So I know that's a big thing to end on. We can all say goodbye together.
Long, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. We are in peace. We are in peace.
We are in peace, Ayana. Thank you, everybody.